week 6 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I look to buy and trade for here this week. The first guy, Matt Chapman of the Toronto Blue Jays. So far in his first season here with Toronto, it hasn't gone good at all here for Chapman. I know he's shown some power, still 6 home runs, but 6 home runs, 16 RBIs, a 185 average, and a 272 on base percentage. So right here, he's another guy who's too talented to be hitting this bad. And I know the dead ball issue is definitely a concern this season, where the ball's not flying out of the yard, and a lot of hitters have horrible batting average, especially talented hitters who are way better than this, like Matt Chapman on the season. So last season, I know he hit only 210, but that's way more respectable. And he had the 27 homers and 72 RBI. So right here, he's struggling mightily as Chapman. It seems like a lot of offers or 1-for-4 ball games it's been, but he's too good. He's in too good of a lineup, and he's going to break out. And when he does, he's going to be a top fantasy player for those few weeks that he breaks out, where he definitely can help your team. So right now, while he's struggling, he's a perfect guy to go out there and try to get, because he's going to turn things around, I believe, here. And when he does, he's going to put up big numbers. May 11th at the Yankees, 0-for-3 with a rib. May 13th at Tampa, 1-for-3. May 14th at Tampa, 0-for-5. May 15th at Tampa, 0-for-2. May 16th versus Seattle, 1-for-3 with a homer and a run. May 17th versus Seattle, 0-for-2 with a run. And May 18th versus Seattle, 1-for-4 with a run. So right here, he's got to still adjust maybe. But now going to these other ballparks, obviously, in the AL East, the weather's warming up now. We're almost hitting June. And that ball carries, obviously, when the weather is 80 degrees or more. We're going to see the home runs go up around the league, and we're going to see Chapman get things going. He's too good of a hitter. I know last season, batting average-wise, it was an off-season, but he's going to get it going, and when he does, you're going to like trading for him, because right now you could get him pretty cheap, and he's been dropped in 4% of fantasy leagues as well. In 19% of fantasy leagues. So if he's on your free agent market as well, I will go out there and pick him up. But if you got to make a trade for him, I think you give a bottom-of-the-barrel type of starter, or a hitter who's off to a great start that you don't think will keep it going. But right now, I would definitely go out there and buy Matt Chapman. The next guy, Whit Merrifield of the Kansas City Royals. So Merrifield, another guy who we know throughout his career, he's a 280 to 300 hitter, but so far this season, it's been awful for him. 2 home runs, 16 RBIs, 6 stolen bases, 14 runs scored, a 204 average, and a 239 on base. So right here, Merrifield, very surprising that his batting average is that low this season here. I don't think he's the best of hitters, but obviously he's a 280 to 300 guy, like I mentioned, is Merrifield. And I know the Kansas City Royals, they don't have many great hitters on this roster here, but he's always a table setter. He's always a guy that gets things going. But right now, this season, he's not getting it going. But the obviously good thing about it, he's only struck out 22 times in 147 at-bats. So he's putting the ball in play, and it's going to find holes eventually here for Merrifield. And he's another guy that it's just off to a slow start the first 6 weeks of the season, and a guy you easily could get on a discount now. May 13th at the Rockies, 2-for-6, 2 runs, 2 RBIs. May 14th at the Rockies, 1-for-4, run, a rib, stolen base. May 15th at the Rockies, 2-for-4, homer, 2 RBIs, and a run. May 16th versus the White Sox, 2-for-3 with a run and 2 RBIs. And May 17th versus the White Sox, 2-for-8. And May 18th versus the White Sox, 1-for-5 with an RBI and a stolen base. So right here, he's not really hitting the baseball, but the last few games he's looked decent at least here with multiple hit games in the last 2 out of 4. That May 17th 2-for-8 was a doubleheader game, so obviously that don't really count as a multiple hit game. So right now, while his batting average is down, where he was under the Mendoza line just a few games ago, but a few 2-hit games brought that up, he's starting to break out of it, I think, here. And I definitely would try to get him on a discount, because there's no way the Merrifield owner is going to ask for full value for him at this time while he's been in a season-long slump. The next guy, Matt Olson of the Atlanta Braves. So the Braves here as a team as a whole, they're just not hitting the baseball this season. I mentioned Matt Olson last week as a guy to buy on a discount. So far in his first season with the Braves, 4 home runs, 15 RBIs, 17 runs scored, a 255 average, and a 373 on base. So right here, the batting average and on base, honestly, they're just right where they got to be here for Olsen. Throughout his career, he's usually in the 240 to 270 range. So he's right in the middle of things. Last season, hitting 271 with Oakland. But the problem with him is the RBIs, and obviously the home runs. Only 4 home runs here for Olson. When last season he had 39 home runs. So this Brave team, like I mentioned, as a whole is not hitting the baseball. The dead ball issue definitely could be an issue here for the Atlanta Braves. And even the last month of the season, Olson just hasn't done anything. 172 with 2 homers and 13 RBIs and 100 at-bats in the last month of the season. So the last few games here for Olson. May 8th versus the Brewers, 1 for 5, 2 RBIs. May 10th versus Boston, 2 for 5 with a run. May 11th versus Boston, 1 for 4 with a rib. May 13th versus the Padres, 0 for 3. May 14th versus the Padres, 1 for 4 with a homer. May 15th versus the Padres, 1 for 4. May 16th at the Brewers, 0 for 4. May 17th at the Brewers, 0 for 3. And May 18th at the Brewers, 2 for 4 with a run. So right here, he's pretty much been idle the last month of the season, not doing anything. But another guy, once this Brave team gets going, they're going to get super hot, in my opinion, and Matt Olson's going to be in the middle of things here because this team's too talented. They got way too many great bats on this roster, and Matt Olson's one of them. So right now, while he's been idle, like I mentioned, the last month of the season, not doing anything, this is a perfect time to get him on a discount. The next guy, JT Real Muto of the Philadelphia Phillies. So JT Real Muto, what a horrible start for him this season. 2 home runs, 8 RBIs, 19 runs scored, 3 stolen bases, a 238 average, and a 301 on base. So right here, the last couple of weeks for him, he's hitting 184. And the funny thing is, this Philly team, they're starting to find the power stroke and hitting the baseball, beating the Dodgers last weekend, 3 out of 4 here. So the last few games here for Real Muto, May 10th at Seattle, 0 for 4. May 12th at the Dodgers, 2 for 4 with a run. May 13th at the Dodgers, 0 for 5. May 14th at the Dodgers, 0 for 4. May 17th versus the Padres, 0 for 3. And May 18th versus the Padres, 1 for 4 with an RBI. So I still think Real Muto's one of the best hitting catchers in all of the league here. I know last season the home runs were down, especially in that bandbox in Philadelphia with only 17 homers, but he did have the 13 stolen bases. He still hit a decent batting average for a catch at 263. So he's off to a slow start. And like I mentioned, though, this Philly team is starting to break out as a whole here in terms of hitting the baseball for home runs and stuff. So Real Muto, I think he's going to join the party sooner than later. And right now, while he's not doing much here, but the weather is warming up as well on the East Coast, he's definitely a guy who would go out there and get. And the 5th and final hitter I look to buy and trade for is Max Muncie of the Los Angeles Dodgers. So last season, in a lot of my videos, I don't know if a lot of you guys were around listening to me, Muncie was a sell-high candidate because I didn't think he would do what he did, but he finished the season 36 home runs, 94 RBIs, 95 runs scored, a 250 average. So obviously his average early in the season last year was way up there, but he finished the year in the 250s. But right here this season, I just don't get it. 3 home runs, 13 RBIs, 21 runs scored, a 167 average, but a great on-base percentage, 340 compared to that 167. He's 180 points higher, is Muncie almost, with that on-base to batting average. So right here, he's in the middle of a great lineup in Los Angeles. And they've even been struggling a little other Dodgers this season here, where they've been out of the gates, not 100%. Playing to the capabilities they should be. And Muncie and Cody Bellinger, the 2 biggest busts on that roster right now. But they're still a team that's going to turn things around. And they're still playing decent, but not dominating like they should be. May 12th versus Philly, 1 for 3, 2 runs. May 13th versus Philly, 1 for 5, 2 runs and a rib. May 14th versus Philly, 0 for 1. May 15th versus Philly, 1 for 4 with an RBI. May 16th versus the Diamondbacks, 2 for 4. With a run. May 17th versus Arizona in a doubleheader, 1 for 6 with 2 runs. And May 18th versus the Diamondbacks, 1 for 4 with a run. So right now, Muncie struggling mightily. He's not even showing power, at least with only the 167 average. Only 3 home runs, but he's a guy we've seen throughout his career, and especially last season. He could get hot in a flash, and he's really got power. So a guy that qualifies first, second, and third base, I would go out there and try to make a deal for him because he's going to start getting going. And like I mentioned, hitting that Dodger lineup 5th or 6th, he's too good not to get good pitches and start driving the baseball, hitting home runs, and driving in runs. So that's a few hitters I look to buy and trade for here for Week 6 of the fantasy baseball season.